I've been doing YouTube for 2 years and it's taught me something, that you and I have been sold 10 lies. And these lies have majorly affected the growth of my personal and faceless channels. By watching this video and seeing my first-hand examples, hopefully you can avoid them. Let's start with click-through rate. Click-through rate is a measurement of how often somebody views your video after seeing you via an impression. And what we are led to believe is that the higher your click-through rate, the more views you get. Well, no. The promise of a high click-through rate getting you a viral video isn't exactly true. This is how the YouTube algorithm works. When you release a video, the algorithm segments your audience into various groups, and then it runs tests on subsets from each group to see what is the most suitable audience for this video. Once it finds this audience and a market, you are then competing with other videos in the same market. And you will continue to get impressions on your video until you lose out to the competition. And the click-through rate is one factor that influences the decision to stop showing your video. What click-through rate has very little impact on is the size of the market your video is shown to. If you are targeting a small market, regardless of how high your CTR is, you're gonna get small views. Okay, so this is one of my best performing videos. It has a click-through rate of 9.4%, and this led to just below 35,000 views. Now, this is another video on a faceless channel I run, and it has a click-through rate of 5%. So you'd expect it to have less views, right? Nope, it has 20 times more views. And I can explain why with one word: penis. Impressions. Here we have 304,000 impressions, and with the other video we have 8.6 million impressions. So if you want big views, go after a big attention market, likely an established market like productivity. But know if you are competing in that market, you're going to find it very hard to break through because you are against people who are at the top of the food chain. You need to be better than them because you are effectively stealing views off of them, and that's where the click-through rate comes into play. Speaking of views, next we have arguably the most important lie of them all. Okay. This one is going to be controversial. There is no long-term value in views. Let me show you why. I made a video where I reviewed Andrew Tate's Hustler University. This video that I have on back here for absolutely no reason. Now look at what that video did to my channel. Bang, I finally had views, that crack cocaine that everybody is searching for. Now look at one of my faces channels. Boom, more views. We were rolling in on that view gravy train until we weren't. Now there are plenty of reasons as to why this happened, and we will focus a little bit on that in lie number 3, but there was one foundational reason to what led to this. I was too focused on getting views as opposed to getting recurring views. Recurring views are the key to a sustainable and successful YouTube channel, because this is what builds a loyal audience. And if you're in this to make a bit of money, you need 1,000 true fans to do that. Not what I was trying to do, targeting viral hits, and when I eventually get one, starting again from scratch, and thereby losing the interest of my viewers and building up the number of graveyard subscribers. So now when you go onto YouTube Studio, instead of going for that vanity metric like views, navigate to the analytics, go to audience, and look for that purple line here. You want to get this purple line as close to the blue line as possible. So how do you do this? Well, if I was going to do this on my personal channel, I would do another Hustlers University review, this time for its 4.0 version, because the majority of my audience came from the video before where I talked about the 2.0 version, but I didn't want to do that. And this brings me to lie number 3. Lie number 3 is figuring out your niche as you go. Now this one is incredibly important, because if I personally had known what niche and market I wanted to target on my personal channel, I would never have made that Hustlers University video. This one video alone brought me in 2,400 subscribers. Now this would have been absolutely amazing if I were to launch a Hustlers University competitor, but I absolutely didn't want to. In fact, I actually turned down an article with the Times because I just wanted nothing to do with Andrew Tate. Now I had 2,004 people who probably subscribed to me because I talked about Hustlers University, and I was never going to talk about it again. Maybe a small percentage of them still watch. Now, if you're one of those people, you're a real OG, let me know down in the comments. But The majority of them are probably graveyard subscribers by now. Instead, if I was intentional from the start as to what topics and niches I was going to actually talk about, I could have capitalized on that momentum and built on it more and more. And I've seen this before where creators accidentally become well regarded in a niche that they have no interest in pursuing. One person that comes into my head is April in Alter. She became the NFT girl after one of her videos went viral. A few months later, she came out and said that she wasn't going to be doing content on NFTs anymore. And because she had built up an audience of 23,000 people who wanted NFT content, she completely lost her audience. And this nearly happened to me with one of my faceless channels. It's called Millennial MBA. Now, this is the first time that I've actually publicly said that I run this channel, but I think for illustration and example purposes, it's worth doing because it shows you not to fall into the mistakes that I fell into. So with this channel, our first 2 videos went viral. And if we had a single brain cell in our heads, we would have said,
oh my God, this video concept works. Let's focus on this and keep on doing it.
Instead, we went and did a ChatGPT video. Now, it was still a really good video, but it was nothing to do with the audience that we already built up from the previous videos that went viral. If we had known to focus on that niche and the attention market from the very start, we would have built on that momentum, and I reckon the channel would be 10 times bigger than what it actually is right now. No, we are starting to do it again, but we did lose like 4 months of work. So if you are going to start a YouTube channel, start with the end in mind. Yeah, things might change slightly, but if you know your attention market from the start, you will not be left astray. Next up, we have quality over quantity, and this one in particular annoys me an awful lot. Giving general advice to a bunch of creators like quality over quantity is like telling a first-time golfer to draw a baby stinger around the trees. Sorry if you don't get the context, but what this basically means is that it's very hard to do something if you don't know how to do it. There is no point in focusing on quality if you don't know what quality looks like. And knowing what quality looks like can only come from experience. When I first started YouTube, I started posting 2 videos per week. I made them about productivity, crypto, and I was a little bit all over the place. Now you know exactly why that's a really bad thing, but I was getting to grips with what was and wasn't a good video. I got a little bit closer to understanding what quality looked like, which was a mortal sin because when I got to about 90 videos in, I was pretty sure I knew what a good YouTube video looked like. So I decided to spend a full month making a video, and I pumped around €500 into it. And I wanted to pack in as much quality as I possibly could. It had multiple storylines. I was outing someone who was scamming people. It was very high stakes, and I really thought this video was going to go, you know, skyrocket. Oh God, was I wrong. It completely flopped. It flopped because I just didn't know what quality meant. And if instead I spent that month creating 4 videos, I would have learned a lot more. My dog beat the professional Forex trader, by the way. My advice to you is, if you have data telling you that you know what quality looks like, i.e. recurring attention, focus a little bit more time on it. If you don't, i.e. you're only getting one-time views, then keep on getting those reps in. If you are building a face or a faceless YouTube channel, you have almost certainly experienced the next lie. You should copy what works, but you shouldn't. Good artists create, great artists steal. Yes, and we're seeing this more now than ever. People advising that we take, let's say, very heavy inspiration from other creators when you create your own content, which is fine, but people, including me, got the idea all wrong. Okay, if you copy somebody like Mr. Beast, know that you are now in direct competition with Mr. Beast in becoming Mr. Beast. Who do you think is gonna win that? I'm such a hypocrite. Does this video look familiar? This didn't exactly work out for me, and now I know why. Firstly, I was pivoting out of my target market. Only once before did I try a Forex trading video, and it didn't do so well. So why in my right mind did I think doing it again would give me a different result? Yeah, I could have, but that's not what the data told me. Secondly, I was unintentionally targeting the same market who I was taking heavy inspiration from. The creator was Michael Reeves, and it's safe to say that if somebody compared Michael Reeves doing a Michael Reeves video and Darlucey doing a Michael Reeves-esque video, there was only going to be one winner. But it has worked for people in the past. So, how do you make this work? I'm going to let my brother from another mother take.
100% original. Like, it's not like $1 versus blank. I'm the first person to do it. But I just, saw that format and I was just like, how can I do that 100 times better?
Right.
How can I put 100 times more creativity into it? How can I level up the editing by 100 times? How can I spend 100, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that's always my mindset. How can I, if I get inspired by something, how can I do that but 100 times better and make it my own?
5 years ago, the word pivot would have meant something completely different to me. But now in a YouTube context, the word means completely different. To pivot means to completely change direction. And the lie that you've been told is that you should pivot your videos until you find something that works. But the context that they have is all wrong. A good example of a pivot was an app called Bourbon. It went from a photo check-in app to a photo sharing app. Instagram. A good example in the context of YouTube was Ryan Trahan. He went from a running channel to a React channel to becoming the most lovable person on the planet. Good pivot decisions are made off of one key component. Data, or data, whatever you want to call it. Data is your best friend and it helps you make decisions to help you understand how can you get closer to your video market fit. But you need to be strategic with how you capture it. A good plan looks something like this. You create 10 videos. All of these videos are the same length and the recipe of the videos, like the storytelling and the setting, is the same. You change around one thing: the concept. And after releasing these 10 videos, you now have a reliable data set which informs you which ideas worked and which ideas you should continue and iterate on. Thereafter, you apply this knowledge to the next 5 videos and then the next 5 videos, and you're getting closer and closer to your fit. What generally happens, and I know this very well myself, is that you create 10 videos and they're all completely different. And by the end of the 3 months, you are no closer to figuring out your video market fit than you were at the beginning. And it is so easy to get shiny metal object syndrome on YouTube. You see someone go viral with a concept and you're like, oh my god, if I do the exact same concept, I'm going to get the same, if not more views than they will. But you never do. So if you don't have a plan and you stick to it, you will consistently create content that always falls on deaf ears, because your content will always be second place to the original. Yes, you can pivot, but make sure you get some data to understand in what direction should you pivot in. Not everyone would agree with this one, so bear with me. The next lie is outsourcing. Outsourcing on YouTube is crucial because it is just so hard. If you do everything yourself, you are simultaneously an idea machine, a thumbnail designer, a scriptwriter, a video producer, an editor, and a sound design artist. And if you attempt to do this for a long period of time, you will burn out. So you just need a bit of help. But I do not believe you should outsource a job you haven't tried yourself first. For example, when I first started on YouTube, I hired someone on Fiverr to edit a couple of videos for me. He sent me back a draft and there was a few changes to be made, a few ums and ahs and a little bit of background music to fiddle around with. I sent him the changes and I could not believe how long it was taking him to get these changes back to me. In my head, I was going like, man, come on, this is just a few ums and ahs. Like, it's taking you like 3 days to get this back. It should take you like a half an hour. So I decided to edit the next video myself. I knew my way around Final Cut Pro, so this was going to be easy enough for me. I cut the timeline together, then spent about 6 hours editing the video. And at the end of the 6 hours, I rewatched the video and I could barely spot the difference. And after having a little bit of a cry for myself, the penny ended up dropping of how long it takes to video edit and the amount of effort that goes into the small, minute details. If I hadn't had that experience in the first place, my expectation of when the editor should deliver the video would have been completely misaligned with when he was actually going to do it. And because of this, you're going to clash and the quality of the content that you're going to create is going to suffer, be it video editing, thumbnail design, script writing, or any other part of the video production process. And trust me, with editing, you want that relationship to be strong. And not even that, sometimes it can be difficult to communicate your vision in words. Having the ability to touch up a few things is really, really handy. Like I do with this video. Daniel, my editor, who does these absolutely amazing cuts and motion graphics that you see throughout the video, does 95% of the work. And then at the very end, I spend a few hours doing the background music and putting in bits of humor. I do the same with thumbnails too, but alas, therein lies the next lie. Thumbnails. I used to follow these Twitter threads where a thumbnail expert would say, break down the latest Mr. Beast thumbnail. You know, the white color making his eyes protrude perfectly, the shade of red on his jacket, that contrast of blue in the background, like, oh my God, stop. What the man on Twitter fails to mention is that for the 5 hours that was spent in the color design, there was probably 50 hours coming up with the thumbnail concept. You know, can you grasp it in 1 second? Are we piquing curiosity? Because thumbnails are 90% psychology, 10% design. So your time should be allocated in that way. I mean, this is embarrassing, but I'll show you to get the point across. I made a video where I paid a Forex trader to trade for me. I spent probably 100 hours on that video, and I spent about 1 minute on the packaging, the title and thumbnail. But to make up for that, I came up with this random concept and I sent it to a really good thumbnail designer and spent $100 on the thumbnail design, because I thought this guy's thumbnail design level would level up this packaging and make it ultimately the most click-worthy video I have ever created. These here are the results, and look at what he came back with. Oh, if I could go back in time, I'd cut myself in the knee. I'm sure if I spent more time on the video concept like I did with, say, this video, we'd have gotten many more views. And by the way, this thumbnail that I just popped up on screen here took about 6 hours. 5 hours and 15 minutes was spent conceptualizing and coming up with ideas, and about 10 minutes was designing. Safe to say we eventually figured that one out. Now this actually brings me on to the next lie. Now I've never heard anybody specifically saying this, so maybe this was just an internal lie that I told myself. But the lie was that I was eventually going to figure it all out. And my ego told me once I'd done this, I was all set. And I cannot emphasize how many times I had a eureka moment. Like, oh my God, you need a fast-paced hook to get good retention. You can retain viewers by inputting rehooks. Thumbnails need to be understood in less than a second, or you can get more attention by doing challenges instead of talking head videos. And every time I thought I had it figured out, YouTube found a way to prove me that I had a long way to go. Like here, this was the moment I figured out that I could take successful concepts from one niche and apply it to my own niche, and I thought I was going to get the same traction. Unfortunately, it didn't translate as well as I thought. Or here, when I realized that creating a remarkable moment in your video would lead to a spike in retention. It's a classic case of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The more you figure out, the more you realize there is to figure out. So just so you know, this is a long road and it's a game of knowledge, and it takes a fair bit of time for that knowledge to stack up. Anyone that tells you otherwise is probably not being truthful. And the final lie is that YouTube is a video platform. It's not. It is a distribution machine. It is the ultimate video for getting millions of people focusing on whatever you want for as long as you want, but only if you're good enough. We have hundreds of creators proving that this isn't just a good way to start a business, it is the new way to start a business. That's why I think building personal and faceless brands on YouTube is the best foundation that you can build to launching your own products. And these products can get you money, freedom, influence, or whatever you want. Personally, I talk about what I'm up to and how I do it on my newsletter, so if you are interested, do click on that link below. But for now, I hope this video helps you avoid those 10 lies. I talk about this topic a lot because I love it. YouTube thinks you should watch this video next. That's all from me. We'll see you in the next one. Slán.